Well, the Constitutional Court ruling in favour of Nkosana Makate, he was of course the creator of the Please Call Me concept, that's with Vodacom, has been lauded as a win for the little guy. But behind Makate was the might of litigation financiers. We are now joined by Edward De La Pierre, who's founder of the South African litigation funding company. That's to give us a bit of industry knowledge about the rise of this kind of financing in South Africa. Good evening to you, and perhaps we could start by linking to our previous conversation, litigation, a big class action, the silicosis class action suit, which could benefit or not 200,000 miners and former miners. Is that the kind of thing that you'd get involved with?
Well, class action in itself, David, is very new in South Africa. A few years ago, we didn't have class action, and now it's caught up, and you can now get a group of people together to sue on a joint basis.
So, Edward, very quickly, the company, the South African Litigation Funding Company, which is the company you founded,
yes.
How does it help ordinary South Africans who want to go through the litigation process, and how do you make your money from it?
Okay, it started off by me being involved in a litigation with a financial institution. And I, at that stage, could not even get a lawyer to act for me. And I had to decide to do it myself. And I went through the process of issuing summonses and making sure that all documentation at the courts were in order. And I soon found out that it's very easy to lose your files at the courts. So I started off, and right at the beginning, I was approached by a company that was busy with litigation funding, that were funding the South African potato co-op against Pricewaterhouse. Now that company is the IMF company. They are a listed company on the Australian Stock Exchange. And from there, I started to have this interest to find out more about this.
And your own background, training?
I'm a property developer since 1973.
And just give me a sense of how you're making your money. What is the percentage that your company would make from a person who maybe like a Nkosana Makate, who's taken on Vodacom, comes out with a potential 15 billion rand or whatever the number is?
I would have liked to have that case, because then I don't think I'll be here tonight, because I would still be celebrating. How we make our money is that it's not only litigation funding. We basically do mediation, we do arbitration, and we do then take on litigation. Now, if I take on a case and it can be solved with mediation, then we would take a cut of about 20% of what we recover on a specific claim.
Was there a particular litigation financier working with Makate on
yes,
the Vodacom case?
I think it's the Sterling Rand Group, and as the overseas companies, most of these litigation companies are owned and managed by attorneys, ex-attorneys, ex-judges, barristers, and bankers.
So 20% for mediation. What is the industry average when it comes to litigation?
Well, litigation would depend. If you take on litigation, it can start becoming very expensive. And then the share to the litigation funding company will go up to, say, 50%. It all depends on how difficult the case is, but the cases we take on go through very strict selection. We have what I call a phase 1 selection, where we check the basics, jurisdiction, prescription, merits of the case, so on. And if we tick off those boxes, then we move on to say, can the debtor pay? Should we get a successful order against him? And then we also like to take control of the company, meaning we drive the company with a litigation team that we select. I'm talking about advocates and
Is this an area of the law? It all sounds so American, and it doesn't sound like our law, but increasingly this kind of language is being spoken. Big class action suits, big litigations, and the Vodacom one, of course, is...
Well, you'll find all over the world, in 2008, there were about 3 well-known litigation funding companies. Now, in 2015, there are about 30. A lot of the overseas banks are now starting to start their own litigation funding divisions because they have seen it's profitable.
Edward, how does staying the course work? In the sense of, if you see that there's a possibility or there's a high probability that the case could be lost or go either way, at what point do you pull out? And if the case is lost, what then happens to the money that you've invested?
Okay, firstly, in the selection process, and if you look at the record of all the litigation companies throughout the world put together, they have a 98% success rate. But I must say that, again, 50% of all cases are settled by mediation and not litigation. I also want to first just tell you that if litigation goes on, say, in the UK, and I borrowed money from an investor like David to run your case, and we lose the case, there's an insurance policy called the ATE insurance, or after the event insurance, that we take out on David's investment, and he then gets paid out by the insurance company. We don't have that in South Africa, so if we lose the case here, we technically lose the money. But like in all businesses, you don't make money on everything.
There's risk and reward.
There's risk and reward. If you look at the JSE, how many people make money, how many people lose money.
Well, Edward, we'll have to end it there. It's a fascinating subject, and of course given great prominence by this Vodacom Award, and I suppose we can see more of those. That is Edward De La Pierre, who is founder of the South African Litigation Funding Company.